Hey, bro, let's get into this thing. It's Damashe and Michael, just talking tech.
The following podcast on the Your Own Pay Podcast Network will contain adult content. Listener discretion is advised. More information about this episode can be found at yourownpay.com.
So, remember how I told you one of the ways or complaints that I had about my current setup is I was using the PFL buttons and I couldn't adjust the volume?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I got it kind of to work, but apparently not the way I expected it, because you heard yourself when you came in on Clean Feed, so I've got to see what's going on with that. But what I've actually did is I've started to pipe most of my audio through to, and I'm going to poke around with the panning. So on this board, channel 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11, 12 are paired on the board itself. And I think it has something to do with the panning on, if you pan all the way to the left, you're on channel 7, all the way to the right, you're on channel 8, and 9, 10, left, right, respectively, is how that works.
Kind of the way audio file would work in a sense, right? Because most audio files by default have two channels, and you have that left and right if you pan one way or the other.
Yep. So I got it to send audio through to, so with this audio, you can send audio out via USB. You can send audio out to the master, which I think most everyone should understand. You can send audio out to one of 3 different auxiliary outputs. And then you can also send audio to group 1 or group 2, or apparently both groups. And so what I ended up doing is I took JAWS, which I have on 910 now. I took Windows Sound, which I have on 7, 8. And I took VoIP, which, because we're in Clean Feed, VoIP comes through on the Windows Sound 7, 8 for right now. But I took all those audio and I patched those through to line, or to the second group. And so I was able to adjust it.
Oh, man. I would say we should have picked a different time of day to record, but I don't think there's really like a doggy downtime during the day.
Right. I don't think there is a downtime for the dogs. Benjamin's going to go put them outside, so hopefully that'll reduce it a little bit. Anyways, so what I had done is I routed the audio to group 2, and I thought it was going to work just fine because it worked just fine on Skype, doing the Skype call test or Skype test call, which is good, but Skype test call isn't talking to you while you're recording, so you didn't know that you were actually picking up the audio coming into the USB or into the audio, into the computer sounds, and pushing that back out. So I got to poke around. Looks like what I want to do should be doable. And I might be able to graduate from my hack together way of getting it to work. Although I am still using Reaper to pass my audio through, which Reconsole is amazing. Alt-C V plus 12 enter will boost my audio by 12 dB, and people should be able to hear me fine now. The only problem with PFL is you're low enough that I can hear you, but it's not, I don't want to say difficult to hear, but it's not you. It's the way this setup is set up. So if I ask you to repeat yourself, that's why.
Gotcha. Goodness. Should have drunk some coffee.
Yeah. Coffee is good. I didn't get coffee. Those who don't know, for DM70, what number is this? 1, right?
DM71. So show notes and all the stuff we mentioned will most likely be at yourownpay.com/DM71 for this episode. Yep, this is DM71, and we're recording in the middle of the night.
Yeah. Middle of the night for Damashe, kind of in the evening for me. I mean, it's what, 10, 12 there? 8, 12 my time?
Yep. So you got your beer, Mike?
Nope. Tequila.
Oh, shit. Oh, man. Huh. I got something in there.
Go big or go home, right? Oh.
Oh, man. I need to find a different kind. I'm gonna have to find a liquor store here because I am very used to not paying like the marked up prices you pay for alcohol.
Yeah.
But the Costco here does not have what the first Costco I did a lot of shopping at, which was in Tallahassee, Florida, had a liquor store attached to the side of it. It was a Costco liquor store, but like they had a whole liquor store, not just a little section where you can buy beer or, wow, geez, Costco has a ton of fucking wine. My goodness.
Yeah. Apparently some of the Costco's here do, or not in Oregon, but in California, have the liquor store.
Yeah, it was cool. I didn't realize until I actually got to Atlanta that it wasn't a normal thing. I just thought they all had their own liquor stores on the side because they have their own branded, versions of alcohol. So we go in there and, let's say I want to buy some vodka. I would buy the Kirkland's, which is the Costco brand for people who are not familiar with Costco. Kirkland is their white label, kind of like, what is it, Great Value at Walmart? Yeah, like that. So... or Members Mark at Sam's Club. So I would buy the Kirkland's vodka because I went in with a friend of mine one day to the liquor store at the Tallahassee Costco. This was years ago. And looking around, and I wanted to buy some vodka. And, I normally bought like Grey Goose or something like that. And she picks up the Kirkland's vodka. She's like, well, the Kirkland's half a gallon of vodka is only like $20. Yeah, but I don't know what that came from. I have no idea where that came from. Who knows what the hell it's made out of. And she reached the bottle. She was like, well, it was made by Grey Goose. And I was like, oh, well, shit. You're out of here. You're out of here.
Right.
But I'm not used to paying like the marked up prices for alcohol. So therefore, I don't really have any alcohol in the house because like I refuse to pay like $20 for something that I know in ordinary circumstances in a regular liquor store, I could get it for, get a half a gallon of said thing for $20 or $25, and you want to charge me, $15 for a pint or something. Like, I just can't do it.
That's like, and I don't want people to think that I drink a lot, but every once in a while.
He actually doesn't. I was really joking about the beer. I didn't even expect him to have anything. Honestly, it was more or less like, hey, it's late as hell at night. We should get some beer or something and make this a real show.
Right. But I went to the bar in Montana, and I mean, you could get drunk on $20 at a bar in Montana. Now, tell me any other place in the country you can do that. I go here, you can be lucky if you get 2 drinks for $20.
Yep. Yep.
So, technology.
Man, they got these liquor delivery apps.
They have these liquor K-cup machines that I was telling Rummy about a couple months ago on the show.
With the mixed drink things. But they're like, yeah, I heard about this.
Yeah, I thought that would be interesting. I don't have I kind of do have the money to drop on it. I'm skeptical about it. And maybe I shouldn't be because, you can get some decent tasting coffee in a K-cup, so...
Yeah, my only problem with the deal is, one, I probably don't have the money to drop on it, and then 2, honestly, I'm very particular about alcohol in a lot of ways. Yeah. So, most people don't mix alcohol in the way that I would want a drink mixed. Like, I tend, for margaritas, for example, like I do like margaritas, I really do, but I will only get them if I'm in a Mexican restaurant. Like an actual authentic Mexican restaurant, like everybody I run into in there that's like that works at the restaurant is Mexican or at least Latino, right? Because they're gonna make the margarita strong, probably a little stronger than it really should be, but they're gonna make it. It's gonna be a good margarita, not overly strong where you're like, oh my god,
yeah.
But it's gonna be a good margarita. Especially the restaurants, like you sit down, you get the nice meal or whatever, and they bring out your margarita, and it's like this big, giant bowl glass. It's like, this is the right place.
On the bottom. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
You're in a good margarita place when you get your margarita in a bowl like that, or a cup that looks like a bowl.
Good times. So, what are you up to lately?
Man, honestly, lately I have been spending a lot of time with Amazon SES and Cindy.
And how is SES treating you?
SES is actually pretty nice. I wish I had started using it some years ago. Pricing is good. It's comparable. It's not, it's not as cheap. I don't know where people get this 1,000 emails for a penny thing. It's not a penny. It's 10 cents. And there's a whole different pricing structure for attachments. So 12 cents per gigabyte for attachments, which does include embedded images for those of you who like to put, embed the image of your company logo in the email, just so you're aware of that. But SES is actually pretty good. I sort of wish that I would have started using it over Mailgun just because I wouldn't have so much migrating to do for people's WordPress sites that I have running on Mailgun. But Mailgun is, at least was, I can't speak about today because I haven't actually set up a Mailgun account in a while, but at the time, Mailgun was infinitely easier and quicker to set up over SES, because essentially all I have to do with Mailgun is you know, once you have an account created, you go in, you add the domain, they give you some records to add to verify your access to the domain, and then you're basically done at that point. And that is done as fast as it takes the DNS to propagate. With SES, when you first start, and the thing I didn't realize because I hadn't really used SES before, I've used other AWS services, but Amazon's simple email service, I had never used it. I knew that you had a similar thing with the DNS records that you have to do. There's also an email address verification that you kind of, sort of, Amazon seems confused as to whether I have to do those or not. One piece of documentation says, no, you don't if you do a domain-wide verification, and people still get emails that say, hey, you need to verify this email. So I don't know what they're doing with that. But the other thing with SES that you have to do is you need to get out of their sandbox. So when you first set up your SES account, set up your AWS account, and you start working with SES, they're going to put you in what they call their developer sandbox or tester sandbox, or some sort of sandbox. Basically, you can't send emails except to email addresses that have been verified within SES. Now, you have to drop an email to Amazon and say, hey, I would like to please lift my restrictions and take me out of the sandbox, please. And they usually reply back with the form wants all these things, like, what are you going to use it for, blah, blah, blah. Not super difficult, but at the time that I made the choice to go with Mailgun over SES, and abandoned SendGrid is what we were using before, and go to Mailgun, I didn't have time to screw around with Amazon and their stupid limits and their sandboxes and none of that crap. Right, because we were in the middle, like the stuff I was switching over was actually live in production, and I needed it to work. But generally speaking, now that my account is set up and has been verified with Amazon and everything is rolling good, like it is, you know, excellent. I mean, it has all the features and capabilities. There's a lot more stuff that hooks up to it than I initially thought. There are quite a few WordPress plugins that have been recommended. We'll drop a link, a couple of them, in the show notes, so people can check those out if you're interested. And of course, for Sendy, it makes it great because Sendy handles when you're setting up an account in Sendy for email marketing purposes. Once you have it set up with SES, like, it handles all of the bounce complaints and all of that automatically, which is an advantage with Sendy and SES over using an SMTP email sending option within Sendy, which you can do. But you don't get the bounce notifications. You don't get the, you know, all of that stuff automatically handled for you. And I don't want to write the code to deal with that. I'm pretty certain that somebody could have written written Sendy to work with something like Mailgun over their API, because they do have one. But, you know, SES is nice. I don't really have any complaints. Like I said, I gotta switch other people's sites over to SES for their transactional emails, but not a huge deal. And I figured this, if nothing else. One, Amazon is highly unlikely to make any significant changes to the way the service works, the way that Mailgun has done, because their entire business seems to be shifting somewhere else. And two, look, if it works for Amazon.com, definitely ought to work for me.
Right. And Amazon.com and imagine several other businesses use it too.
Oh yeah, there's got to be a ton of them, man, because there's too much stuff that links up to it, like, very easily, or has integration with it directly. You know, the Delicious Brains guys wrote a whole plugin that they have a free version of, and then a premium version just for Amazon SES sending for WordPress. So it's a popular option, I would say. Kind of like S3. You know, S3 is a super popular option out there. I don't use it anymore. I use, you know, Wasabi, but it tells you how prevalent S3 is, especially because, you know, services like Wasabi, DigitalOcean Spaces, all these other things still use an Amazon S3 compatible, you know, API sort of structure. So that it's very easy for me to plug something like Wasabi into a program that would normally, you know, be connected to S3, right? You just change the endpoint URLs and you're good, because everything else, the API calls for putting an object there, retrieving an object, any of the things that you need to do over the API are exactly the same. Amazon is the big fish.
So
in a very big pond.
Text Expander has been pissing me off, like I know it has been pissing you off.
Fuck a bunch of Text Expander.
So when I called you earlier today, just randomly, I went down the rabbit hole of installing auto hotkey again, because I wanted to experiment with that. And that actually, I think, might become my Text Expander replacement as soon as I can get some of the things to work the way I want them to, which I imagine it can. I really think that could be a alternative to Text Expander. It does not give me the cross-platformness that Text Expander gives me, but it works almost every time, and that's more important to me right now than the cross-platformness. And so what's super cool about it is they have their own unique syntax, and someone who may have already explored it knows this, but it is a great resource. You can do a lot of things with it. I currently have Control-J set up to populate my email address, and that sounds weird, but that's the demo they used. And of course I had to. Do you do that too? When you're doing a demo and it says, write hello world here or something, you're like, no, I'm going to put my email address here because that's the problem I'm trying to solve right this minute. And if it works, it works.
Yep.
So that's what I did. So now if I hit Control-J, it'll populate my email. I want to move a lot of my other snippets into AutoHotkey. So let me take a step back. How AutoHotkey works is you create a script file, which is a plain text file. I have one right now on my desktop called testing script, and I can add multiple different hotkeys ended by the word return. I think it's actually use the right terminology. Talk open. So you can set up multiple different scripts inside of one script file ended by the word return. And so eventually I'll have if not all of them, a majority of my Text Expander snippets. You can do the fill-in snippets where you have to type something in and it will insert that into your snippet with variables and ask for input actions. So you're writing your own little programs for Windows that are usable system-wide, and I'm excited to see where this path takes me. What you do is, to get back to what I was explaining, you create your script, and I have my script on my desktop, and then when you've made any edits to that script, you hit enter on it to compile it. It'll say, hey, do you have an older version of this? Would you like to replace this? You hit Alt-Y, and that will replace it. And then you type any of your snippets into a blank edit box and go from there. I want to also get into automating doing different things with Windows. So what caused me to go down this path is I'm using a tool called CSV Generator, I think is what it is. And it's for the radio that I use. Well, the problem is it generates generates 4 CSV files. And it uses semicolon for the delimiter. And I want to edit the information in Excel. So what I found myself doing is opening the folder where it put the CSV files, hitting Applications, hitting H, hitting N to open in Notepad, doing a Control-H, which is a find and replace, and finding and replacing the semicolon with a comma, and doing that for everything. And then saving the file, closing it, and reopening it, which would open it into Excel and actually show me the data the way I expect it. And then it looks like I have to go and do the same thing for each of those 4 files, but change the comma to a semicolon so the software can create a code plug for the radio and import it into the radio. And after I did that 3 or 4 times, I'm like, man, there's got to be a way to automate this. This is tedious and I'm going to screw something up. And then that made me go download the AutoHotkey software. And then I got lost in the documentation trying to build out some of my own things. And you know what? That other project is still on the back burner because I haven't automated it yet.
Do you remember the name of this tool that Allison Sheridan was talking about?
I do not, but I can probably find it. Did you ever download it or?
No, I didn't. I'm looking for it now.
I will let you know if I find it, unless you do. First, that's weird. I typed in text expander alternatives. Wait. Kitchen distractions. And we came up. And I put pod feet. Espanzo. Yep. EXPANSO. And there's a link to it at yourownpay.com/DM64. Well, a link to her article. I knew we talked about it. I just didn't know when. But that was kind of cool. I Googled text expander alternatives pod feet because I knew she talked about it. I don't know that she used text expander alternative in there. But then we came up and I'm like, wait, we did talk about that. And then I went to my own website and then clicked on. Weird how that works.
You didn't tool out, or was it Mac only?
I think it might be Unix or Linux. I'm not 100% sure, actually. I did not go down that path because I knew auto hotkey was the Windows equivalent. Well, not equivalent, the Windows alternative to text expander. And HK has been around a lot longer than text expander has been on Windows.
That's a cool deal, man. I am seriously, so for me, I was able to go back to, thanks to friend of the show, Marlon, who wrote Text Expander an interesting email. I think the subject line of it was text expansion hell or something like that. Of course, as always, they promised to look into the issues, blah, 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 blah. But they did provide him with a download link for an older version of Text Expander, still in the version 6 release, but it was older than the last couple of releases that they have that have truly screwed up everything on the Mac, at least for me. So that version does work. It's still the terrible Text Expander kind of interface that it has been since 6 came out, where they seem to have kind of made themselves a little web app to, handle this.
Just turn QuickNav off. That'll fix all your problems. Don't you?
Yeah. Even though QuickNav is never on. What I find interesting about it is, I use ARQ. I think you're using ARC also. But ARC came out with version 6. Version 5 is when I got into ARC, I think. It may have been version 4. But anyway, version 5 of ARC came out. And it was great. I like it because it basically, to me, and maybe this isn't 100% accurate, but I've never used Time Machine myself. But for me, ARC makes me think of Time Machine just on my terms. So I'm able to select the folders. I'm just like Time Machine. I can select what I want to back up, and it can do incremental backups every hour or whatever schedule I want to set it on. But it lets me determine where I want that to be stored. So I can store it anywhere. Dropbox, Google Drive, Wasabi, S3, just about any cloud storage you can connect to. OneDrive, which is where Mike is storing his stuff.
Yep.
So like Time Machine, it gives me that flexibility of having my files backed up, especially the important ones. I don't back up my entire system because it's unnecessary. There's no point in me backing up Microsoft. Jesus, they must be talking about me. I hear you, Jeff. I heard that. All right. There's no point in me backing up like the Mac OS system files, right? Because when I reinstall Mac OS, they're going to come back. Like there's no point in backing those up. Now, clone is a different thing because you want to beta boot, but just backups, Time Machine doesn't back up any of that stuff either. The difference for me is I get to determine where it goes. It's off-site. That's my off-site backup right there. So I'm not paying for Backblaze anymore. Sorry, people. I've never used Carbonite. For anybody wondering, is Carbonite accessible? I don't know. But version 6 of ARC came out. This is where I was going with this. Version 6 of ARC came out, and it was an Electron app. And it was horrible on the Mac. Michael says it was fairly usable on Windows, whereas ARC 5 was kind of a shit show on Windows.
But
if I remember
completely
correctly.
doable on Mac.
Yeah, it was perfect on the Mac, man. I had no problems. Version 6, oh man, it was so terrible. It was terrible. It was terrible enough that when I first downloaded it, like I instantly sent off an email without even doing a whole lot of inspection as to what was broken. It was like, man, this is virtually useless. Blah, blah, blah. And I was going to, do a screencast and show them some stuff. And I was like, screw this. I'm going back to version 5 because I really don't have the time to deal with this. Version 6 was not in release, I don't think for 12 months. I don't think it made it a whole year as a release because they apparently backed it up. And I found, a couple of threads on Reddit Apparently there's ARQ backup subreddit. Interesting. You sound like me when I saw it. I was like, huh.
What?
Think that, what is this?
I don't need it, but good to know. I might go see what other people are doing, but yeah.
I haven't seen, I didn't really see anything spectacular, but I did see a post that the developer behind Arc, the guy who founded the company, wrote about Arc 6 and going to Arc 7. It was a very detailed post and very thoughtful from his perspective. And he realized that a mistake had been made with 6. And so when 7 came out, it's back to a native macOS app. I'm assuming it's fairly accessible on Windows since you bought a license, Mike.
Yep. It's not completely accessible on Windows. There are a little few quirks here and there. I haven't found anything I can't do though. It could be cleaned up a little bit, but it is pretty usable. It is not 5 days for sure, and I would say it's probably even better than 6 on Windows. So.
Good deal. But the point I'm making is like Text Expander rolls out. So all prior versions, I've been using Text Expander since version 3 on the Mac.
Forever.
Yeah, for a long time, man. Long time. And version 6 comes out, and I think version 6 was the first, upgrade version. I may be wrong about that. First subscription version, but I could be wrong about that. My memory's a little fuzzy on that.
Yeah, I think they actually started that in V5. Right.
Yeah, that does sound right, because that would make sense as to why I paid for a license 1 year and then got that discount deal for the following year. So yeah, that sounds about right. At any rate, version 6 is horrible. I don't know how. Now, the difference with Arc is there was a lot of vocal feedback about how Arc 6 was from everybody. It wasn't just an accessibility thing. Like, people in general did not like it. I don't know that Text Expander is getting that sort of feedback from the non-screen reader user community about how Text Expander 6 looks and behaves. But from a screen reader user's perspective, it is a major loss in usability. There are some accessibility issues as well, but just usability from a screen reader user standpoint is horrible. But the problem is there's not really that great alternative to Text Expander for me, at least, because I have so many snippets and so many advanced snippets inside of Text Expander that it's going to take me a significant amount of time investigating things like Keyboard Maestro. They have snippets. That's the thing. I do know a couple of people that switched over to Keyboard Maestro once Text Expander. I should probably Google up some of those old articles. There are some people who left Text Expander and went to Keyboard Maestro because they didn't want a subscription. There's things like LaunchBar has support for snippets. I've never used them, never looked at them. Right, so there's all these alternatives that do exist, but I don't know how well they would actually meet my needs because I haven't done the investigatory work yet, which Michael started doing today with Auto Hotkey.
Because I got tired of it crashing my computer.
My problem, and see, here's the thing for me with Text Expander, like, it's not, I mean, the current release version, whatever the current version of Text Expander is, like the release version right now, that was about to drive me into the wall, into like, okay, I got to find a solution, because I couldn't even get it set up on the M1 when I was trying to, because all these weird menus were popping up all over the place. That old version did allow me to at least get it set up, and there's things I needed to do. I have so many snippets, man, so many snippets, command line snippets, because I don't want to try to remember the command of how to create a database in MySQL. I just made a snippet because I do it a lot.
So someone back in 2016, and I'll link this, was talking about, and I haven't read the whole article, but I'll link it for people who are curious, importing Text Expander snippets into Keyboard Maestro.
Yeah, so definitely should check that out.
It might be a thing.
Was it Dr. Drang?
What?
I said, was it Dr. Drang? Or what's the website?
Yes, Dr. Drang.
Yep,
that's who it was.
That's the first article I saw that I can remember seeing too, of somebody that was doing it. That's actually where I was going to go look for that. So good find, because that is where I was going.
Leancrew.com. I like it.
What is it?
Leancrew.com.
Oh, yep, that's it. That guy's a.
So I'm sure we'll talk about what Damashe finds and what I'm doing with auto hotkey. And if someone says, hey, no, you just got to make this change to your voiceover settings and text expander is fully usable on voiceover, please let us know, because I'm sure Damashe would appreciate that.
Yeah, if you have some feedback, definitely share that. Or same for Windows as well. Although I think Mike's issue was more that it was crashing crap.
Yeah, it was. So what would happen is I would be able to expand one snippet, and then when I went and did a second one, I would lose all speech. Actually, I think what happened is I wouldn't lose speech. It would lock up my whole keyboard, so I couldn't press Windows D. I couldn't even activate narrator, and that's what makes me think that it would just tick over the whole keyboard, and something was happening with that connection between text expander and the driver for my keyboard on both of the Windows laptops I've tried it on.
Correct me if I'm wrong, because you were on Windows, you went back to the Mac for a while, back to Windows, but you've kind of been bouncing back and forth between them more so over the years than I have. Has text expander on Windows with the screen reader ever been in good shape?
No. In order to build snippets, as you know, I would go to the website in Chrome and had a better experience that way than within the app. I've never gotten it to reliably work on Windows. When it works, it's great. That's the thing, is when it does work, it's amazing. And, I'm pretty happy. But auto hotkey expands things even faster than when text expander is working. It would expand it on Windows. So I noticed that from the get-go.
Nice.
Quick side note to kind of change the conversation, because I almost did it, but I'm watching myself more. Who in the hell thought putting the R for reload was better than using F5? And I asked that because one day I was doing something and I went to look something up. So I went to hit Control T and I hit Control R and had to refill out the whole form that I was filling out.
Control R to reload the web page?
Yeah, Control R reloads the web page and Control T opens a new tab. So, yeah, I've done that once or twice now.
Well, hold on. Wait a minute. Oh, no, actually, it would be the same thing.
Yeah, it's the same thing on Mac. But when I did that, Michael Doyes was like, who changed it from F5 or they should have stuck with F5 or something like that, or that should be F5. And I'm like, it always has been F5. I think that was
just IE, though. Or am I wrong about that?
I'm pretty sure that you can do that in Chrome, and I'm going to tell you here in a moment, at least on Windows. Yeah, you can hit F5 in Windows and it reloads.
Okay. That does not work on the Mac.
So that could well be what the reasoning was something needed to be cross-platform in F5, what that does on the Mac.
It did nothing here. It does do something if you have your F key set to do the media stuff, but mine is just set to work as regular function keys. Yeah, it didn't do anything inside of it. But I will tell you, though it was a frustrating situation having to refill out the form, the positive thing is Windows Universal Clipboard. So for those who don't know, if you hit Windows V, and yes, I said Windows V, not Control V, this will, the first time you do it, say, hey, would you like to enable the Windows Universal Clipboard? I think it's what it's called. It's pretty much a clipboard manager for Windows 10. And it will keep, I think it's the 25 most recent things that you copied to your clipboard, or it keeps all of them until you reboot your computer. I'm not 100% sure because I haven't paid that much attention. Because honestly, when I'm using a clipboard manager, I just need probably the last 3 to 5 items that were added to my clipboard because I'm doing a repetitive job that I need to paste some of the similar content into different fields. So what I ended up doing is, because this form asks questions, I would type my questions in Microsoft Word, spell check them. And then I would select them all and cut them to the clipboard and paste them into the respected fields. So when I hit Control R and reloaded the form, I went and started filling out the form, and then I remembered that I was doing that. So I hit Windows V and was able to down arrow through each of my responses, find the proper one, hit enter, and then press tab, and that put that into the edit box. So that was an unexpected benefit or advantage while using tools at my disposal. I'm just gonna say, if you're not using, at least if you're, I don't, that's an awesome thing that's built into the system on Windows, first of all. So if you're not using a clipboard manager, period, like you need to get one in your life. They're extremely handy. Everybody has done it. Every single person that uses a computer regularly has done it. You copy something and you mean to go paste it somewhere and you do something else, or in the midst of getting over to where you need to paste that, you copy something else. And now you've just overwritten the thing that was on your clipboard that you meant to save. And sometimes you can't get it back. I have been using the Clipboard Manager in LaunchBar almost from day one of using LaunchBar. I think that is one of the first things that I enabled and learned how to use outside of the quick launch features. And, you know, my life is screwed up if I don't have a Clipboard Manager, because I will copy something and I will go and I won't even think about it. It's like, oh, I need to save that to do something with it later, right? Well, I'm not going to do that thing right now because that requires me to go open up, 1Password or something. For example, looking at my Clipboard Manager, I have, there's a clean feed link that I had to copy out of Safari, because apparently when I opened it up in Safari the first time, I was like, please use Chrome. I'm like, but it's working. It's working. I can hear him. He can hear me. I can hear me. But apparently it really wanted me to use Chrome. So I switched just in case it would do something weird to like the recording or something. But I have a snippet that I need to go update in one of my bash files for where the new location of auto completion for different packages I've installed is now located with Homebrew. And I have a bunch of information I need to put in 1Password that I copied out of an email. All in the Clipboard Manager. I haven't even thought about it because it's just there. When I remember to go add this stuff to 1Password, I'll know it's on my clipboard. I won't be looking for the email. Basically, you need a Clipboard Manager. They still kind of suck on iOS. I haven't played. I didn't even look for any on Android, actually.
Me neither. I am charging this Android phone because I want to play around with Android 12 in the near future. But maybe before I make that leap, I'll do some poking around for some clipboard managers. There will not be a link to an app in the show notes because I'm not committing myself to having that done before those come out. But I'll do some poking around on Android.
We'll follow up on that. iOS does have a few. I won't link to any because, one, I don't know if they're still active, and they're sort of kind of terrible in a way. Because, of course, the way iOS is structured, you can't just copy stuff and have it automatically grabbed by this application that manages your clipboard. You have to do something. I think I can't remember the name of it, but my favorite one that I did like on iOS had a widget. So if you pulled down and swiped over to the widgets view when it was in the old style, you had that widget there. It would then capture what was on your clipboard and store it for you. And it had a little keyboard extension you could switch to, so you could, quickly paste out things in different apps. So it was nice. Right. Well, I don't remember the name of it, and I don't even know if it's still on the store. So, but on a desktop operating system, such as Mac OS or Windows or Linux, if you're one of those crazy people, get a Clipboard Manager. Make your life amazing.
And you'll feel assured that you don't have to worry about that.
Absolutely. I'm buying this mixer that you have, by the way. Well, actually, I'm buying the 22, whatever it is.
Yeah.
The MTK
Did you hear that
version.
joke I made on the Kelly Co show? I'm like, yeah. And now that I have this mixer, Damashe had to tell me that he's getting the 22. And
yeah, I did hear that. Yeah. By the way, Mike did do a very good explanation of how he's using his mixer and kind of some of the foibles of getting it set up on the AMI radio show on May something.
I don't even remember.
20,
was it this last
19,
Monday?
18,
Or was it
17. Yeah, it was just last Monday. So May 17th.
We'll link to it.
And we'll link to it in the show notes.
DM72.
Nope, 71.
Yes.
You go to 72, you will get nothing. There will be nothing for you this week if you go to DM72. Now go to youronpay.com/DM71. We will link to Michael's segment. I thought it was fairly well done. He packed in a lot of information without talking too fast. Because I don't think I've been doing a lot of umming.
No.
But I noticed that one though. So we'll link to it. Michael did an excellent job, I believe, and not only explaining what a mixer is for, what the type of board he has is for, the difference in just a mixer versus an audio interface, and the fact that his board has both of these things, but also sharing some of his adjustments to using it and trying to get it to work in the way that he wants it to work, getting it to work in the way that he wants. And I thought it was just a good overall explanation and should ease your mind if you're getting an audio interface or a mixer and trying to figure it out. Michael was very clear that, hey, this is a learning process and I've had it for a month and I finally gotten here with it, right? But he's not giving it up, and I'm going to buy the same board, just a bigger one. And I'm probably about a month away from buying mine. I got to determine whether or not I'm going to get it off of Sweetwater or if I can get a better payment deal with Z-Sounds.
Which, for those who haven't heard, I really like Z-Sounds. They don't give you the support that you would get from Sweetwater, but I like both of them.
I like both of them. If it comes down to me making a purchase of that amount over several payments, if Z-Sounds gives me 12, the most I'm going to get from Sweetwater is going to be 6, I think.
Yep.
So, look, stretch it out. I'm trying to start a business here, man. That's not cheap. I gotta pay for servers, and I pay lawn guys because I don't have time to cut the grass. Licenses, all this. Look, man, I'm trying to start a business.
So I don't have much more to talk about, but I do want to mention, I don't think we've mentioned it on the show, about me doing surgery. A week or so ago, I decided to sit down with the RoboVac that we have and try to get it working on our Wi-Fi network. Because I just kept having issues, and Eufy or Anchor wanted me to send a video, and I never got around to sending a video. It takes a lot. That's just an excuse, but it takes a lot to actually get in the mood to send a video to someone to show them that it's not working. And Doug made an offhanded comment about this Raspberry Pi that I got from him. And he said, make sure to put it on a network that has a single word for the SSID. Side note, I didn't have to do that, but that's besides the point. When I was thinking about that, though, I said, hey, maybe this RoboVac needs to be on a network with a single word as the SSID. And so I put it on our guest network with Eero, and ever since I connected it to that, Eero has this fancy feature that you go into the settings and you go to troubleshooting, and then there's an option that says my device won't connect. And when you choose that option, it will disable the 5 gigahertz network for, I think it's 15 minutes. And this device only will support the 2.4 gigahertz. So I first tried that and then tried to put it on the main network, and it wouldn't work. It just wouldn't allow me. It kept saying an error has occurred or something to that nature. So when I disabled the 5 gigahertz network and put it on the 2.4 gigahertz guest network, which is a single word, pie and cake, it went on there just fine, and there wasn't any issues. And the app recognized the RoboVac, and now I have it cleaning up stairs on a schedule regularly, and it hasn't fallen off the stair cliff. And so I am super excited to say that if for some reason your smart device won't connect to your Wi-Fi network and you happen to have a space or a special character, try VA guest network and see if that'll work.
I have determined that I had to buy a router. Speaking of networking gear, I bought a router. I'm not going to say I necessarily had to buy a router, but it is going to make my life infinitely easier going forward. But I did just buy a standalone router. It does not have Wi-Fi in it at all. It's just a router, just a hardware router. The reason I bought it, and I'm going to put my Google Wi-Fi, wait, is that what it's still called? Did they change it to Nest yet?
It might be Nest Wi-Fi. I don't know.
Man, whatever. Nobody gives it. The Google branded Wi-Fi devices, I'm going to put them in bridge mode once I actually set up this router. Now, the purpose for me buying a router, and I thought about this before, especially somebody like Doug writes in or tweets or tells me somewhere else when I speak to him about, oh, well, you could have done this. Yeah, I know. I probably could have bought a Raspberry Pi and turned it into a router, or used an old computer and put Linux on it and PF Sense and made it into a router. I didn't want to do any of that shit because I don't have time. I will do it at one point. At some point in the future, I will do something like that as a project. Probably one of the kids, once I figure out which one of them has the network geek buried down in there somewhere. But didn't have time to do all of that, and I did need to solve a problem. What's the problem to be solved, as Allison would say? Well, the problem to be solved is, number one, none of the mesh products that I'm interested in, there may be one that exists, but none of the ones that I'm interested in. So either the one that I currently own, which is Google, or Eero, which is the only other one that I'm actually interested in, give you the ability to do dynamic DNS. And for those of you not familiar with dynamic DNS is the ability. There's some external service. There are things like Dyne DNS. There's other services that provide similar functionality. Cloud DNS, which happens to be my DNS management service nowadays, also offers this capability. But basically, you're able to take a domain name and point it at your home IP address. And once you get it configured in the way that it needs to be configured, if your ISP changes your IP address, because that tends to happen, doesn't seem to happen as much as it used to, but it does still happen from time to time, the dynamic DNS service will automatically update where that record is pointing to so that it continues to work. So I don't have to manually go in and adjust the IP address from 68 dot something to 92 dot something or whatever the hell they're using. Weird also, Comcast is using 68 over here and it used to be 73. Very, very confused by that.
And Spectrum is using 47 when it used to be 64, I think.
Amazon Web Services has a 8 dot something domain in Virginia.
Huh.
Yeah, I had a EC2 instance spun up, and it was using a 8 dot something domain. IP address. Yeah. And I was like, oh, weird. But anyway, I need dynamic DNS for several reasons. Number one, I want a security certificate for my printer so that when I go to the HTTPS version of the page, I don't have to do the whole little bypass thing. And I also want security on the printer because the printer will have some form of access from outside the network. This printer gives me an email address I can use. It can do some other stuff that needs to, have internet connection. So I want a security certificate on it. I also want some better firewall controls than what I get with the Google Wi-Fi, at least. But I also want the ability to use a internal domain for my local area network, which is something I've gotten super used to from way back whenever I first hacked a router and put like DDWRT on it or something. I like being able to type in, like if I want to, go browse the printer interface, or if I want to connect to another computer on the network, which is how I normally use this, is I just type in like, Latia's, Latia dot, my internal domain dot home or whatever, and get to her computer. It's not really that long, but I couldn't think of an actual thing that wasn't a legitimate domain that I don't want people to know. But that way I can very easily, first of all, having that sort of setup means if the IP address for a device changes, I don't have to worry about it. I mean, I could go in and, set static IP addresses, but who really wants to do that when you can just go overboard and set up a whole bunch of extra shit that nobody really understands and wonders why the hell you did it in the first place? What would be the point if I didn't do that? So I bought this router. I haven't set it up yet. It is a TP-Link, a small business router. It's about $50. It has 5 gigabit ports. Looks pretty good. Maybe I can put DDWRT on it, but if not, I still at least can do the things that I need to do. But I do need that external dynamic DNS setup because Plex is coming back at some point.
Plex on a Pi?
It depends. It depends. A friend of mine has said he's going to send me a Mac Pro somebody gave him. It's an old Mac Pro. It's like the old, before the trash can Mac Pro. So it's like a 2012 Mac Pro somebody gave him that he has decided he doesn't want to try to attempt to do anything with. So I may just set it up on there.
That would actually be good. Have a Plex server and a Hazel server.
Yeah. That could be my Hazel server or Plex server. And once I get Plex up and running, plus I can stick all the hard drives that I need, a couple of big hard drives inside the case of the computer, so there's nothing, hanging around either.
Yep.
I still haven't, I have a couple of Pi projects, but I think I'm avoiding buying a Raspberry Pi right now just simply out of fear. And the fear is I'm going to get the Pi and then I'm not going to get anything else done while I'm sitting here fucking around with this fucking Raspberry Pi.
Okay, so I thought Ben
Amazon.
was going to be quiet while he came out. He was trying to be quiet. He was too, which I appreciate that, but he finally said, forget it, and just shut the door.
Amazon Business Prime American Express card. Huh.
So I thought you were going to say, the reason I haven't gotten a Raspberry Pi is I'm going to turn into Michael and have two of them and not be doing anything with one of them. And
No.
Although Doug has convinced me to pick up a tool that it's very interesting. It's called All Star, and it's another radio communications. But what they do is it's based on Asterisk, an older version of Asterisk, and it has a
Before they fucked up their name spacing.
Yes. And it has an antenna on it that you use, and you connect it to a Raspberry Pi. And when you dial into the node, it will pretty much create a miniature conference that will connect you to another user on the network. And it looks very intriguing. It's very straightforward to set up, and it might be a use for this Raspberry Pi 4B that I have sitting up here. But the problem that I run into with it is, do I want to use that 4B for just using All-Star? Or do I want to go pick up another 3 and run All-Star on that 3? Because that 3 is going to run me about $35, and then I have this 4B open up to do something creative. Then I run into the thought of, well, you're not using it for anything right now, so...
So, but here's the problem, right? Here's where we're well, I'm not going to necessarily say we're slightly different. I think I've learned a lesson from you a little bit, which is you bought a Raspberry Pi and you kind of overcooked it when you bought it. And now everything that you could possibly do with it, you're like, yeah, but do I really want to use a fucking Super Pi just to run Pi-hole? Like, that doesn't make sense.
Yep. When you can run Pi-hole on Raspberry Pi Zero, I believe.
Yeah. It's like, do I want to buy a Mac Pro just so I can...
$15-20.
Yeah, it's like, do I want to buy a Mac Pro just so I can stream audio? Like, that makes absolutely no sense. Or I have the Mac Pro already. Do I really want to set this computer up just to be like an audio streaming device to play music around the house? Like, really?
Right.
Is this it?
Yeah, so one of these days
I say spin it up on the 4B, right? And then when you figure out something else that you want to do with the 4B, then go buy the other Raspberry Pi, because at that point, all you should really have to do is just swap the cards over, if I understand it right.
Nope. Two different cards.
What do you mean?
So the way that this setup works is you can get it for a 3 or you can get it for a 4. There's something different in the architecture or the layout. I don't remember exactly what it is. It might be different USB placement ports. I'm not sure.
Nope. The 4 is 64. I think the 4B specifically. Maybe if it's just specific to 4 and 3, I'm not certain. But I know for sure the 4B is 64-bit ARM Linux, and the 3 is not. It's 32-bit.
Well, I know this
so that
thing
could be.
plugs into USB is for the USB ports on the 3. On the 4, they're on top of each other.
Okay.
So that might be it too.
Well, buy a Raspberry Pi 3, man.
I know. That's likely what's going to happen. Is I'm just going to pick up a Raspberry Pi 3, do something with this 4B.
Make a NAS. I'm telling you.
Yeah, but then I got to buy hard drives. Either way, it's going to cost money.
Well, I wonder if you set it up with something like free NAS or something, if you could use, that would create probably a ridiculous amount of latency, though, if you could mount Wasabi Bucket.
That sounds like a lot of internet usage that be a bit overkill. But I think I see where you were going with that.
Yeah. As I thought about it, I'm like, one, that's a lot of internet traffic back and forth. But then two, like the latency probably would kill you. I don't know, man. What else could you do with the Raspberry Pi 4?
Have you tried ideas?
I mean, I got a few. I mean, there's the NAS, because I'm pretty sure you got a hard drive laying around. And look, it doesn't have to be 4 terabytes, man. It could be plug a flash drive in just to see if it works, right? Yeah. Get it working, see if it's something you need.
And
phone system.
To be honest, Damashe, I knew you had some ideas. I was talking to the listener.
Oh, I thought that's like, man, look, I got a bunch of ideas, man. Load up Asterisk or something on it. Yeah. Make a virtual PBX. Install Plex on it.
I might sell this Fire TV Cube thing.
Huh.
Because I kind of am interested in the Apple TV, but I don't know why I'm interested in it, and I think that's why I haven't pulled the trigger on it. Probably because I gotta check with the boys. I don't even know if the Fire TV Cube is hooked up, because we have the Roku TV in the living room now that has the built-in apps.
I definitely gotta buy a new Apple TV. Haven't bought it yet, but I'm gonna. Honestly, part of it is I don't actually have a TV. So there's that. Because Tia actually absolutely refuses to even attempt to order another TV from Walmart. I told you the story privately. I don't know if we mentioned it on the show, but we get the TV and it's already damaged. And when we get it back to Walmart, and she takes it to customer service, the lady in customer service like, you two? You're the fourth person to bring back one of these Samsung TVs that was already damaged when you took it out of the box. And I was like, oh, man. Either they're stealing TVs somewhere in the chain, or people are just really pissed that they can't buy a TV, so they're just flinging them.
Right.
She absolutely refuses to buy another one from them. The only other place we've looked at a couple of different places, but the place I would really rather buy one from now is Costco, because I'll get 2% cash back on the purchase, and they're out of stock of any of the ones that I actually want, which is a Samsung 55, maybe 65 inch TV, and they're just out of stock, just out of stock. I don't know. But new TVs are coming out, and I told them maybe OLEDs will go down in price a little bit, enough like an older generation OLED from Samsung may get pushed down far enough that I'll buy that. Or I'll get whatever the current generation is right now of Samsung LCD once they release their new ones, because apparently it's TV season.
Yep, it is TV season, and it's going to be TV season for the next couple of months, because doesn't football start in August?
Yeah.
So there should be deals on TVs then, too.
Yeah. Okay, but I really want to get it out of Costco, though, because,
Yeah.
2% cash back, man.
That adds up.
2% cash back, man. It does add up. But that's one reason I haven't bought the Apple TV. Secondly, I'm trying to figure out, and I got to chat with my bookkeeper and see if she has any ideas. It would be interesting if I could write it off as a tax write-off for the business to buy Apple TV. I'm not sure I can do it, and I'm not going to do it if it's like, in the very up against the line, maybe, but if they look too hard, maybe not, then I just won't do it.
Right.
Because if it was a business, look, it's funny, I got more money in my operational budget than I got in my pocket. It's crazy.
Welcome to being a business owner.
But that's how it goes. But I'll tell you one thing, man, sitting down. So I read Profit First, just to jump off onto a whole nother topic. I read the book Profit First. Desiree had been recommending we read this book, because she recommended it to both of us. I think you had already read it or started to read it or something. I had not. I just read it recently. I get the idea behind what he's saying, because the general principle that I take, anyway, this is my takeaway. I'm not a professional. I'm not a professional anything, honestly. But with Profit First, the general principle that I take away from it is that you move your money around into separate accounts. So you have one account that's your income account, and that's where payments come into. So, in my case, Stripe deposits or PayPal deposits go into that account. And once you get up and running, twice a month, you're going to move money out of the income account into several different accounts based on percentages. So let's say you're taking 60% of your income and moving that into your company's operational expenses. It's your everyday accounts, which you use to pay the bills for the business. You move a percentage of your money into your company's profit account. These are profits that, you will pull from later. You move a percentage of your money into your payment account, which is like how you will pay yourself or pay other employees or whatever, like that, right? The general idea to me, though, seems to be that if you have your money, and there's a tax account, people, for anybody, don't yell at me. There's a tax account. You're supposed to move money into that tax account too, so that when you pay your taxes quarterly or however you have to pay them, you have the money there, right? And at the end of the year, you shouldn't have any surprises. If you underpaid a little bit because your projections were slightly off on your income, well, you should have money in your profit account to pull from to cover that expense. Not ideal in how you want to do it, but the money should be there. Because if you made more money than you projected you were going to make, then you should have it somewhere, because you're not, the biggest problem that business owners run into, and I know this from being a freelancer, just trying to run I shouldn't say bootleg business, that implies something entirely different depending on where you are in the world. So running a business out of my pocket or out of my back pocket as a freelancer. So like I'm taking gigs, I'm paying taxes on my stuff, like I'm doing what I'm supposed to do generally legally. Everything is legal. I'm not, having people send me envelopes of cash so the IRS doesn't know I made money. Like everything is being legally done. But having all your money go into one account and then paying the bills out of that account and figuring out, well, when do I use this money? What you tend to do if all your money's in one account is what people have a tendency to do. You're going to spend the money when you need to spend the money. Whereas if you have allocated money based off percentages of what you need, and let's say, well, 20% of, all income goes into the tax account. I'm just throwing around numbers, people. Don't yell at me again. 20% goes into your tax account. Well, you don't touch that money because that's the government's money, and you wouldn't steal money from the government. Now, would you? I wouldn't. I don't know about anybody else, but I wouldn't. But if you have, a percentage of your income goes into a operational budget account, well, that's how much money you have to spend on expenses. And if you don't have enough money to cover your expenses, then you need to start cutting costs somewhere. It's the general principle that I kind of get out of this system. So I'm using it for right now. I mean, I may change, I may not change, but it's working for me right now. And the first thing that it forced me to do when I started looking at how I need to allocate funds as they come in is got to cut some expenses. Got to do some expense cutting. Which is something maybe you don't budget for. You don't look at it when the money comes in and the money's there when you need it, and you pay a bill, you pay for this, you pay for that. You're not necessarily keeping as good a track. I'm not. Some people are better at this than others. Yeah, well, I don't want anybody to write in and be like, well, actually what I do is I have a strict budget and I know exactly how much money out of this account goes for it. It's like, okay, that's great for you. My brain does not work that way. I'm too lazy, first of all. Let's be honest about it. I'm actually too lazy.
If you do that and you're passionate about it and you happen to be blind, please write in and let us know.
Absolutely. All jokes aside, please do, because you probably have a future. You either are an accountant or you have a potential future as an accountant if you're looking for work. So if you do all of that and you're very serious and strict about it, I would like to hear from you, because I'm always looking for ways to, enhance my money. Like, I'm not a bad money manager, but look, there's occasions where you mad spend something. You're like, oh, well, look, there's, $2,700 in that account. I can definitely spend $120 on this thing. Maybe I shouldn't have spent that money, but I don't realize that until 6 months later. It's like, oh shit.
See, and I was saying, if you're blind and passionate about it, then I want to interview you for the Passionate Professional Blind Individuals. Is where I was going with that one.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is a point. Definitely reach out for sure. But I don't know. The profit first thing seems interesting. I'm trying it out because it doesn't cost me anything extra to have multiple checking accounts set up with the bank that I'm using. So, hey, we'll see how it goes. I will follow up with you guys in about 6 months maybe and tell you how it's going, whether or not I'm still doing it. Huh?
I said in 6 months his profit account better be a lot better. A lot greater. Man,
it better be a lot better than what it is, because, in 6 months, if it's not looking better than what it's looking right now today, I might have to question whether or not I'm doing the right thing. I have to seriously question this. But it has caused me to cut some expenses for sure, which is a good thing. There's some things I'm paying for that maybe on the outside look stupid, but I think long-term building that expense in and getting used to paying it is going to be something necessary. But I've also cut out some things that I didn't necessarily need. Like, I didn't really need to spin up WP accounts. Not really. I had them, but I didn't really need them. But I do like having my own name servers with Cloud DNS. It's beautiful.
Give and take. See, you have your own name server set up, but you don't have to spin up WP accounts. See, when you think about it, you can.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the name servers, like they may seem vain today, but I'm thinking about where I want to be at in a year, for example, or 6 months. It makes sense to have it, and there's no point in turning it off now because I already have it set up. Just bake that in, and probably not June, but probably July. I'm going to go ahead and pay for a year of that, so that'll knock that expense out and knock some of the cost off of it as well. But it makes it simpler for me with managing people's DNS, because I think that's another thing that I'm going to get away from is the third-party DNS record passing shit where I can avoid it. Because too many mistakes happen for people who aren't used to touching DNS records. So if you host with me in the future, I'm not currently offering hosting services unless you have a special super secret code at the moment. But if you host with me in the future, DNS will have to be managed with me because there's lots of things that need to be set up. AWS, for example, or SES at least.
Well,
oh, man.
I don't really have anything else.
The touch bar is crap. That's what I got. Crap. Absolute crap.
Yes, it is.
Man, here's an interesting piece of news, unless, it just didn't show it to me, but I went to actually go see what would Apple give me on a trade-in for the M1 MacBook Pro.
It's not there.
It's not there. Okay. Not just me.
No, we checked that first.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
That would have made sense too.
Yeah. Apple did pay us today for the computer.
Oh, nice.
Well, no. Man, that is so dodgy. So you trade your computer in on Apple's website. A third party sends you a box and handles the trade-in, and they outsource to another company to send the gift card to you.
See, that's Apple playing them accounting tricks.
Yeah.
That's Apple playing those accounting tricks.
It was ridiculous. But we have a gift card that can be used on apple.com now, so that's awesome. I don't know what we're going to end up with, but actually,
here's an idea. Since it's just a general gift card, unless it's tied to your account, I don't know if they gave you an actual gift card that you have to apply to your purchase.
They give us a gift card code.
Yeah. So if you really wanted to get this iPad at Costco, you could sell the gift card to somebody else. A dollar for dollar value.
So we thought about that, and then Mallory said, 2 iPads, so we could trade this iPad in too and get that, and they'll give us $230 or something for it. Drops the ultimate cost for the iPad, because I've determined we're getting the 12.9 Pro if we end up with one. And if we get the 12.9 Pro, one of her first questions when we got the M1 was why can't I connect it to cellular? Which means we're going to get the 12.9 Pro with cellular. So if we trade in her iPad, then that puts us at 9.0 or 9.10 roughly in Apple credit, and you can use, I think someone told me, 8 gift cards on one order for Apple. So that jumps the price of the Pro 12.9 at $128 down to just over $400 or something like that. So that's a lot more doable, a
lot more manageable. Yeah.
Just throw the money out of the pocket and get it and go from there. So we'll see what ends up. Right now, we're not ordering anything right now because you're looking at July 14th, roughly, is what the estimated delivery date is right this minute. And I know if I wait longer, it could be longer, but I'd rather get closer to an actual delivery date before I place an order, because if I pay for something and I order something, I want a close to instant gratification.
Yeah, and also, that would require her to not have an iPad at all for 2 months, almost 2 months.
Yeah.
Smart lady, that Mallory. Why can't I connect this to cellular? That's a good question. We should ask Apple that.
Yeah.
Hey, Tim, why can't I connect my M1 MacBook to a fucking cellular connection? What's going on with that, man?
Especially when the iPad Pro M1 has cellular connection.
Tim could be a real smart ass and be like, well, you just because the iPad has it doesn't mean the Mac should have it, because you can't run Mac apps on your iPad either. So what's your point, sir?
But you can send text messages from your iPad I guess you can do it from your Mac too. But still, damn it, just put cellular in the Mac.
Gotta do it, man. Gotta do it. Do it. Maybe that'll be the big surprise, since everything else about the new laptops is seeming to be leaking all over the place. That'll be the thing nobody gets, is that it's gonna have cellular capabilities as well in the new MacBook Pros whenever they get around to releasing those. I hope not,
man. I really hope not.
Oh, it'll be too late. It'll be too late. It'll be too late.
Yeah.
And honestly, Mike, I mean, I could be wrong, but I think Mallory is better suited with an iPad Pro.
I think she is too, until she goes back to school. And then I think that might be where she'll hit some limitations, but maybe not though, because the iPad is so capable.
It is very capable. And who knows what, iPad OS 15 is going to also open up, especially on that particular model with the M1 chip being available. It could turn out that she's good.
Yep. Especially for her needs. She's not doing much of audio editing or anything else like that. So
yeah, like depending on what she's going back to school for, she probably would be perfectly fine. I mean, there's document editing on the iPad. You don't have to get.
And that's all she would need.
Research tools. She can do split screen. She got a nice big screen, so even if she does split screen, it's like having two iPad minis in portrait mode side by side. So that's pretty good amount of real estate.
So we'll let you guys know. I said that 20 minutes ago.
How do we even get on that? Oh, I was bitching about the touch bar.
Yeah. See, and this is how conversations with us actually legitimately go. Someone told me once, they said, I think it was Marty, that said, oh, no, it was Michael. And he goes, yeah, I listened to you guys' podcast, and you guys sound a lot like you do up here on your podcast. I'm like, yeah, because that's
basically what the podcast is. That's how it got started. We would have these super long conversations about stuff, and we're like, man, we should do a podcast. And then we just do the same thing. Yeah. We don't have any notes. I don't have a Google. Hey, remember those days? We used to have a Google Doc open.
Yep. And then neither one of us would use it to make the show notes, so we just said, fuck
it. It lasted for, I don't know.
A little bit. It was a little bit. Yeah.
So I stopped using it because Google started, I don't know what they did, but I was having issues with Google Docs and actual navigating inside of the text area, even in Chrome on the Mac. And that's one reason that I stopped using it as much. And there was also no easy way to just dump crap in there when I had an idea.
Yeah, so I stopped using it because Google Docs won't let you reliably use Markdown.
Oh, well, see, that's a problem too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is definitely a problem. Have you looked at Craft?
I have not. Maybe I should. I was legitimately thinking, well, man, maybe we should actually start in WordPress. That would be too convoluted. But no, I have not looked at Craft. Have you?
No, I was thinking about it because somebody was talking about the ability to, I can't remember which show I was listening to, but they were talking about the ability to, it works with Markdown. It does all the Markdown stuff. You can link documents and all of that, but there's some shared features there. So you can, share a document or share documents with people. And I was like, that could be interesting.
I think this clean feed is working out for us. So.
Well, it seems to be. I mean, there's one good thing about this over, Source Now is like there's no, at least, well, I don't have any buttons on my side anyway, so I'm assuming on your side there's no issues about where to click to actually make it record.
No, there's a button that says record. You click record. Give it a name, and I think you hit record or start, and then you're good to go. There's no guessing buttons, and then there's a save button here, and like it's a very clean.
And on that terrible joke, we're going to wrap it up for this week. Thank you for listening. Thanks to all the new listeners that have come in, however you came here, whether a friend told you about the show, you talked to us in Clubhouse or on Discord. We appreciate you. You can check out the show notes. Well, actually, before you check out the show, you can check out the show notes. They're at yourownpay.com/DM71. You can follow us on Twitter. You can follow the show itself if you just want announcements about the show at
the DM series.
The DM series. Shit, you don't even know, and you made the account. You can follow the show if you just want announcements from the show and don't want any of our random bullshit at the DM series on Twitter. Yep. You can follow Michael at your own. Nope. excuse me, that's not right. You can follow Michael at Payon, Payown, and you can follow me at Damashe, Damashe.
What are you going to do when I change that up on you in outro music?
Man.
And you would never know because you don't listen to the show.
Exactly. I was going to say, I wouldn't find out until I actually edited the show. I'm like, what the hell is this shit?
Right.
How long we had this outro music? Look, people will be like, oh man, I really like your guys' outro. Yeah, it's cool, ain't it? I don't even know what the hell they're talking about.
Right? It's been the same thing for 71 episodes. What are you talking about? We know who's finally listened to us to the end.
You've been listening to Your Own Pay Podcast. If you've enjoyed today's episode, visit yourownpay.com/cast for exclusive content and to contact us today. We're eager to hear your thoughts and about how you're making this podcast your own. Thanks for listening. We'll be back soon. The Your Own Pay Podcast, yourownpay.com.